Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us today for our webinar on our IPM Diaries third episode of Evolution of Lifestyle Diseases and how it shaped the Indian pharma market. We'll give a brief understanding of what all these IPM Diaries is all about. IPM Diaries is a special initiative that we have started wherein we try to cover the different topics and various ways in which the different players in the Indian pharma market have shown exponential growth. So the first episodes that we had were on power of mother brand and strategic partnerships. And this is the third episode, which I'm sure all of you will find interesting. The contents that we will be covering in this. Yeah, we will be looking at the healthcare dynamics in India. We will then be looking at the evolution of the Cardio-Diabeto segment in India. And then we will be looking at the strategies followed by the players in the Indian pharma market to make the most of the upcoming opportunity. It is essential to look at this part because it would be a sort of precursor for the next discussions on the evolution and the strategies. First and foremost, we will be looking at the rising importance of Indian healthcare sector. What makes Indian healthcare sector important today? So first of all, the population, a 1.4 billion population showing a steady growth. Even if it is a 1% growth, the base is significantly bigger. And the higher prevalence of cardiovascular diseases, diabetes, and chronic respiratory diseases. In fact, the prevalence is more than the global average. Younger population with higher disposable income, lifestyle prone to develop non-communicable diseases, and awareness, desire, and capability to get treated. Healthcare regulatory system in India is evolving today to ensure patient safety, promote higher quality care, and control costs. Multiple healthcare innovations are seen in India, ranging from low-cost medical devices to innovative healthcare delivery models such as hospital at home, virtual care, etc. Also, the treatment is quite cost-effective, technology is advanced, and a wide range of specialties and alternative medicines are available in India today. As far as the hospital network is concerned, there is a diverse and complex network and in the private and public sectors. And because of its cost and good skilled doctors seen in this country, India has become a leading destination for medical tourism. Also, the number of Joint Commission International accredited hospitals which are there in India, it is comparable to the global average. While we say that all this makes the Indian healthcare sector important and attractive, there are also challenges that this sector has shown. Some of the important challenges are the gap in the healthcare access in the urban and rural geographies. For example, if I were to talk about the population in rural areas, it's close to 64% of Indian population stays in rural areas, which has access to less than 25% of the 70,000 healthcare facilities that are there today. Second is the shortage of healthcare professionals, where the WHO recommendation for doctor to patient ratio is 1:1,000. In India, it is 1:1,500. And the nurse to patient ratio, where it is the global recommendation or the WHO recommendation is 3:1,000, it is 1.7 to 1,000. Also, the higher out-of-pocket expenses. Almost 30% of the individuals in this country are devoid of any type of insurance, and 70% to some extent they are insured. May not be possible to cover all the major expenses, but then there is insurance in some way or the other. And also, if I look at if I compare the healthcare expenditure per capita with some of the developed nations, India comes at a relatively the proportion that India has is very less. However, if I were to look at the out-of-pocket expenditure as a percent of the current healthcare expenditure, it comes to close to 50% for India. Now, why does this healthcare lifestyle diseases become a very important topic to be discussed in a country like India? Because of the changing dynamics or the changing epidemiological patterns seen in the country. In fact, in 1990, that is many years back, okay, the contribution of non-communicable diseases in India was close to 38%. 25 years down the line, in year 2016, this proportion has moved from 38% to 62%. The numbers that I have the numbers are for the year 2016. If I were to again superimpose the numbers for 2024, these numbers would have actually gone higher. Also, when I'm talking about 62% contribution of the non-communicable diseases, how much percent comes from the cardio, diabeto, and obesity? In fact, out of this, 66% is contributed by the cardio, diabeto, and obesity cases. That's the reason why lifestyle diseases become very important for India as a country. Now, these non-communicable diseases, we look at the risks, there are many, and many of the Indians are getting exposed to this risk today. The first and the most important one is undernutrition. There is a difference between undernutrition and malnutrition because undernutrition is you're well fed, but with no nutritious food. And that is exactly what our younger generation today is getting exposed. Junk food, processed food, packaged food, right from a very young age. Physical inactivity. There are rising levels of physical inactivity along with increasingly sedentary lifestyle. Tobacco and alcohol consumption today, actually the exposure is high and at a relatively younger age group. Now, if when I'm putting here the age group of 15 years or 10 to 75 years, the lower age group, the proportion may be minuscule, but then yes, it does exist. And if it exists, then gradually it will increase. Stress and mental health. Nearly 1 in 40 and 1 in 20% suffer from past and current depression, respectively. And this stress, anxiety, unknowingly impact a lot of our organs in a very gradual way. As far as air pollution is concerned, if you see the accepted standard, global standard is 5 micrograms per meter cube. In India, actually, we have increased this number from 5 to 40. And when we look at the different states in India, close to 67% of the Indian population live in areas that exceed the country's own national air quality standard. So something which is much, much beyond this 40 as well. Now, when I'm talking about this growing menace of cardiovascular diseases, in fact, all of them are interlinked. Obesity, diabetes, cardiovascular diseases, all of them are closely linked. Obesity is a major risk factor for cardiovascular diseases as well as a risk factor for developing type 2 diabetes. Diabetes again is a major risk factor for CVD and is often accompanied by other risk factors like obesity, hypertension, dyslipidemia. And cardiovascular diseases are the most common cause of death and disability in patients with diabetes. Now, if I were to look at the statistics and numbers in terms of how much population has been affected, if you look at this, out of the 1.4 billion population, more around 100 million population is affected with diabetes today. 136 million is with pre-diabetes. And other complications like high blood pressure, obesity, high low density lipoproteins. If you look at the number of people impacted, the number of people are very high. And even if I talk about a 1% growth in population, year on year, this population is going to rise. If I were to look at the opportunity loss that we face as a nation because of these non-communicable diseases, first is the productivity loss due to premature mortality. If you see today heart attacks, death due to non-communicable diseases, the age group has actually come down to almost 40 in many cases. Early exits from labor force, reduced work capacity and absenteeism. All of this impact the national economy as well. And it is estimated that India will lose close to 4.58 trillion before 2030 as a result of NCDs and mental health conditions. And that's the reason why this market needs to be taken care of. These demographic shifts in the disease pattern and their impact on the fast-growing Indian economy make India a sought-after market for pharma companies operating in this segment. With this, we move to our next section, wherein we look at the evolution of the Cardio-Diabeto segment in India, the emerging treatment trends, the organic-inorganic growth, the wider reach of innovative treatments through branded generics. Now, if I look at the impact, because of this lifestyle disease opportunity, efforts are being made to increase the awareness and availability of treatment options. We also see a lot of MNCs entering this country with a good number of their innovative treatment options. Earlier, MNCs were a little skeptical to enter the country because of the patent protection issues. Also, even if they entered a little later. Today, that doesn't happen. Also, we have seen a good number of partnerships between the Indian and MNC pharma players and rapid expansion of the consumption of these innovative molecules post-patent loss because the medication becomes affordable. Now, if I were to look at the consumption trends, what we did is we tried to look at a longer trend, how the market has evolved in the last 1 decade, rather than looking at how did it evolve in the last 5 years. So if I look at the trend for the last 10 years, both the markets in terms of value, they have increased significantly and they have shown a steady improvement pattern. If I compare it, this is in terms of value. And if you look in terms of quantity, the growth is there, but the graph is little steady. The gradient is little lower as compared to what we see in terms of value. Then we applied an interesting equation of multiplier effect. So how much has the market multiplied over the last decade? So if I were to keep this base of 2014 constant, then in case of cardiac therapy, the market has become almost 3 times what it was 1 decade back. And in case of anti-diabetes therapy, it has actually become more than 3 times than what it was 10 years back. In terms of quantity and for cardiac and diabetes both, the market has almost doubled. Now, innovator molecules have actually pushed up the market value. So when we go to the next section about on brand building and how mega brands have become in this market, we will see that the innovator molecules have really pushed up this market value. And quantity not increasing in the same proportion actually indicates that it's not that, you bring in new innovator molecules and more patients start consuming. The number of patients remain the same. It is only that the patient shifts from one molecule to another. That's the reason why the overall quantity of the market would more or less increase gradually. And also we see some amount of online sales because there are certain medications that need to be just taken one tablet every day for the rest of your life. So that medication continues and can shift to online. Now let us look at our strong brand building capacity. Now we did a very interesting analysis in looking at how big brands have become. So over here, this is the cardiac market and this is the value of the market in 2014, in 2018 and 2024. These are the total number of brands which have a turnover of 1 crore and above. We have taken brands which are 1 crore and above because they contribute to almost 99% of the market. So if you see in the cardiac segment in 2014, there were no brands with a turnover of 200 crore and above. Whereas in 2024, there are 4 brands with a turnover of 400 crore and above. The statistics becomes more interesting when we go to the diabetes segment. In diabetes segment today, there are close to 13 brands which have a turnover of 400 crore and about 200 to 400 crores. And if I look at the contribution of these segments to the diabetes, it becomes a little mind-boggling. 13 brands, they contribute to almost 26% of the diabetes market today. Imagine how big the brands have become. And this is not just building your legacy brand, but then innovative medicines with their premium pricing and better reach have actually pushed this market value up. Also interesting factors, if you look at this, the number of brands. Now let me go to the previous slide, the number of brands over here. 653 number of brands in the diabetes segment in 2018 and the number has more than doubled or almost doubled in 2024. So why this may have happened is from 2019 onwards, all the innovative molecules that had come in the diabetes segment, they gradually started losing patent. The moment they started losing patent, many of the branded generics entered the market, and that's probably the reason why I see this doubling of the market number of brands. Now here I have considered only the brands where the turnover is 1 to 10 crores, the smallest band. But if I were to take the numbers to, below 1 crore, I would actually get a lot of brands because what happens is everybody jumps to enter or to grab the branded generics opportunity. If 100 brands enter the branded generics market, doesn't mean that all the 100 brands will become 10 crore brands. It's only the top 5 to 10 brands which manage to make the most of this opportunity. Balanced brands usually fall in the range below 1 crore. So if you look in terms of percentage contribution, Overall, in both the segments, it is this 10 to 50 crore brands. They are the ones which contribute, which are the major contributors to both the categories. Of course, if you look at the number of brands which fall in this category, the number is also significant, and the contribution to these respective categories is also good. Then we look at why these innovator molecules, why are these options accepted in the market today? One is better control of symptoms, faster relief, longer duration of action, lesser side effects, stronger clinical trial support, and global acceptance, and launch timelines closer to the global launch. Because what happens is, as our epidemiological pattern changes, it's not that people did not suffer from diabetes earlier, but then the control of sugar, the management of symptoms probably did not happen well to that extent with the traditional medicines. Now we have something which is much more better and available for taking control of the control of the symptoms. This was for diabetes, and similarly we have heart conditions for which a lot of innovative medications came into the market which manage the heart conditions better. Also, since the rate of hospitalization also came down, the cost of disease burden also came down significantly. Now, what we have done is we have just prepared over the last 10 years. Okay, not 10 years, last 20 years. What were the new innovative molecules that have entered in the market? Okay, if I look at the diabetes segment, we will see that it is the gliptins which initiated the everything. Now, what I have done is I have taken the molecules which have entered the market and I have not written the launch date, but I have just put a band. In these 5 years, this is what came. In this 5 years, this is what came. And this is the differentiating factor. I will not discuss science much in detail, but what I would like to crisply summarize is all these diabetes control molecules which came into the market had some mechanism or the other which was slightly superior than the existing options. Also, all patients did not need this superior mechanism of action. That's the reason why our traditional SU meds still continue to dominate the market, because doctors don't go and over-treat a patient. They under-treat a patient, they allow the body to take care of the symptoms, and some support is given through medications. So all patients don't move to innovative medication. Only the patients who require higher level of treatment, they shift over here. So these are the DPP-4s that have been launched in the market in the last 20 years. Vildagliptin, sitagliptin, teneligliptin, they actually started the trend and phenomena. Now, when I'm talking about Vilda, Sita, Teneli, I'm talking about planes as well as combinations. It would just clutter this page. That's the reason I have not written Vilda plus Met. Similarly, SGLT2s came into the market in the 2011 to 2015 band. Remogliflozin also made waves for some period of time. Then DPP-4 inhibitors and SGLT2, this combination also was launched in India, which had a better and a synergistic effect of both the molecules and was a well-accepted one. GLP-1 agonist made a lot of difference. In fact, the one which is making a lot of waves in the market today is the semaglutide, which is used more for its anti-obesity characteristics. Also, we have seen different types of insulins, long-acting, short-acting, medium-acting, which have entered the market and have given better relief or better efficacy than the existing ones. Again, as I say, all patients don't shift to innovative medications. It is only the ones who are the eligible ones who shift to the innovative medications. Now, this is something, all of these are, for diabetes control. Unlike this, for the cardiac segment, the picture is little different. So if you look at in the cardiac segment, antihypertensives, they contribute to almost 50% of the cardiac segment. And in this high antihypertensives, it is only the azilsartan and combinations is something which came as an innovative molecule. Most of the other innovative molecules have come in the niche segments of the cardiac category. For example, we have saroglitazar, bempedoic acid, inclisiran, which is there in the lipid-lowering drugs. In the platelet aggregation inhibitors, we have ticagrelor. In diuretics, we have tolvaptan and finerenone. In antithrombotic agents, we have rivaroxaban, apixaban, dabigatran. And in heart failure, we have ivabradine, sacubitril plus valsartan and vericiguat. And in the PAH category, we have macitentan and selexipag. So if you look in the 50% value contributing category, innovative molecules launched were relatively lesser. But then in this niche category, which actually falls in the critical segment of the cardiac patients, the number of molecules that were launched were were more in number. Then we go, as we talk about, in the previous slide, we said that many MNCs have found this market interesting and now they want to venture in this market. So it's actually a win-win situation for MNCs as well as Indian companies. In our second episode of IPM Diaries, we had actually covered the strategic partnerships in a very big way. So MNCs partnering with Indian companies gives them a reach to the maximum number of patients, because Indian companies have got a massive global reach and many big Indian companies have got very good relationships with their KOLs. They have a legacy which can be leveraged upon. Also, for Indian companies, partnering with MNCs makes a lot of sense because they get access to innovative therapies and they actually become more scientific. It's not that they were not scientific, but then they get access to more science to discuss with their doctors. So these are some of the innovator molecules entering the country with good partnerships. So if you look at the innovator companies, and I have selected only very limited partnerships, there will be many more in the market. But you will see that a good number of MNCs have entered with excellent innovative molecules in the Indian market with good partnerships with the Indian partners. And all the Indian partners are usually the bigger ones with massive reach, and they are known in the industry or known in the Indian pharma market for their cardiac or diabetes piece. Now, if I were to talk about this is just again one example that we have taken. MNC Novartis partnering with 3 Indian companies for their diabetes market and 2 Indian companies for their innovative medication in the cardiac market. So this is how they partner with multiple Indian companies to get an entry across different innovator molecules in the country. Secondly, we also look at examples where an Indian company partners with many MNCs, like Sun has partnered with MSD, Astra in the diabetes segment, and with Astra and Bayer in the cardiac market for actually, making getting their scientific and more innovative products in the market. Now, how did India actually benefit? So access to innovative treatment options with significant improvement in quality of life and reduction in the disease burden has been seen. MNCs see this opportunity as a good opportunity, thereby rebuilding interest in launching innovative treatment options, innovative treatment options in the country. There is an increased awareness about the clinical condition with awareness to get treated. There are many patient awareness programs. There are many patient support programs that these MNCs have brought in the country. And now many Indian companies also come out with a lot of patient support programs, which ensures that there is an adherence to the treatment regimen. People don't leave the treatment halfway. And also domestic manufacturers are getting interested in this opportunity, thereby increasing the access to the eligible patient base. Now let us look at how the market dynamics changed in the pre-patent and the off-patent era. So before the molecules lost patent, there were limited number of brands and corporates operating in the segment. Then the pricing was premium, leading to limited access to the patient base. The focus was more on the specialty physicians. It would be cardiologists, diabetologists, endocrinologists, and the presence was more in the metros and upper tier cities. After the drugs lost patent, several brands and corporates entered the market. The pricing was more affordable, leading to access to the less affording but eligible patient base. The doctor specialty now prescribing these products moved from KOL or key specialties to even CPGPs, and availability in metros, upper tier as well as lower tier cities. So the reach has improved, the patient base has improved, And that's the reason why the opportunity became attractive. How did the domestic players make the most out of this opportunity? Again, I have taken limited number of molecules, limited number of examples. There may be many more examples in the market today, but I just wanted to make a point, and that's the reason why I have taken only these molecules. So before patent loss, the number of brands that existed in these molecules were limited, and the number of companies operating were limited. So the number of companies operating were the innovator company and its partners. That's it. But the moment the brand lost patent, you see today how many number of brands are operating in this segment and how many number of companies are operating in this segment. As I said in the past or in the previous slides, there are more than 100 companies which are actively participating in the cardio-diabeto segment. So many of the companies have launched everything or many things amongst the ones where patent loss has happened. Also, once patent loss has happened, people have also tried to bring in brands where we have a good combination of a SGLT2 and a DPP4 and a metformin, which did not exist when the brand had a patent protection. So this type of category, like DAPA plus DPP4 inhibitors, we have almost 183 brands and 67 companies operating today. DAPA triple combinations, there are close to 136 brands and close to 50 companies operating in this segment today. So people have jumped into this opportunity. Also, as I said in my previous slide, not necessary that all these 226 brands have a turnover of 10 crore and 20 crores. It will be only 10 to 15 brands which have managed to have a decent turnover. Others would be relatively smaller brands. Now, in terms of, I also talked about, eligible patient base, the treatment becomes accessible because the brands became cheaper. Now, what we have done is for a limited set of strengths of molecules, we have seen how much did the price reduce. In majority of the cases, the price reduction has happened to almost 1/3 or 1/5 of what the price was for the innovator brand. Now, because this price came down to 1/3 or 1/5, you will see the increase in quantity consumption. In many places, it has almost doubled. Now, when the quantity consumption almost doubles for a DPP4 inhibitor, it means that good amount of patients who were on SU meds earlier but had a need for taking a gliptin but could not afford to take a gliptin because of the pricing, they were the ones which were shifted by their physician from the traditional therapies to the innovator molecules. Now, while building mega brands and tapping the market potential better, the players in the Indian pharma market have managed an excellent balance of first building the legacy brands. We have seen how many brands have become big today, establishing strong partnerships and leveraging the off-patent opportunity. Now, with this, we move to our next section, wherein we look at the strategies followed by the players in the Indian pharma market to make the most of the upcoming opportunity, where we will be looking at the corporates with their leadership status and the cardio-diabeto portfolio and the brand focus. So if you look at now over here, I have taken a shorter duration evolution. In the earlier slides, we had looked at the 10-year evolution. In this slide, we took like a little shorter duration evolution, wherein we look at, if I look at the 5-year CAGR of the Indian pharma market, it's around 9.8%. If I look at the 5-year CAGR of the cardiac market, it is actually 11%. The growth of the cardiac market is actually better than the Indian pharma market if I were to look at a MAT level as well as for the month level. Whereas in the anti-diabetes market, the growth is decent. And in case of anti-diabetes, the growth is to a great extent pushed by the branded generics which have entered the segment today. Now, if I were to look at the gradual evolution of both the markets, both are showing an upward gradient, but the gradient is slightly better for the cardiac market in the last 1 year. The incremental value added by both the markets in the last 1 year, if I see the cardiac in the last 5 years. So we have taken the incremental value over MAT September 90. The cardiac market has actually increased by close to 11,000 crores or almost 12,000 crores in the last 5 years, whereas the diabetes market has increased by close to 6,000 crores in the last 5 years. If I were to look at the multiplier effect in terms of value, the cardiac market has almost doubled and anti-diabetes market has almost become 1.5 times. So more than 100 companies are operating in this segment. And when I'm talking about more than 100 companies, I have taken the companies that we capture as 10 crore and above, the pharma track audit. If I were to look at the leaders, okay, it is actually the 80-20 rule or the 30-90 rule. So top 30 companies, they contribute to 90% of the cardio-diabeto segment. These are the top 50 companies. So 8 companies contribute to 50% of the cardio-diabeto segment, which is Sun, Abbott, Lupin, USV, Torrent, Mankind, Cipla, and Entas. The next 14 companies, they contribute to 30% of the cardio-diabeto segment. And the next 10%, they contribute to 10% of the cardio-diabeto segment. What is interesting to see is in this sector, except Corona, all of them are MNCs. And when we talk about brand evolution, we will see a very interesting concept over here as well, but that will be in our later slides. Now, if you look at the fast-paced growth, we have looked at growth at 2 levels, the MAD growth as well as the 5-year CAGR. So this would be your short-term growth and this would be your long-term growth. So companies like Glenmark, Eris, Bayer, Sanofi and Servier have shown a short-term growth or a MAT value growth better than the category growth for the last 1 year. Whereas Intas, Macleods, Micro, JB Chemicals, Alchem and Ajanta have shown a 5-year CAGR which is better than the the cardio-diabeto market. Now there is a set of companies which have shown a very good short-term as well as long-term growth. So Sun, Zydus, Corona, Mankind, USV, Merck, Alembic, Pfizer and Torrent. These are the companies which have shown a consistent year-on-year growth. That's the reason why we see their growth better than the market in MAT terms as well as 5-year CAGR terms. Now, while cardio-diabeto segment, if you see what is the contribution of cardio-diabeto segment to the IPM, it's around 20-22%. However, if I were to break this, it is the cardiac segment which contributes to 60% and anti-diabetes segment which contributes to 47%. If I were to look at the Indian and MNC break, okay, for the cardio-diabeto segment combined, Indian companies are around 80%, MNCs are around 20%. In the cardiac segment, it is majorly the Indian companies which are dominant and MNCs are relatively smaller. The reason for this may be, as I said it earlier, major innovations innovative molecules have been not launched in the antihypertensive segment, which is close to 50% of this market. And if you see, all the stronger brands in the antihypertensive segment come from the Indian companies, and that's the reason why this segment is strongly dominated by Indian companies. In case of anti-diabetes segment, MNCs are having a decent 30% share, and it's mainly through their innovative molecules which they have managed to bring in the market today. Now, in this chart, what I have done is I have actually mapped the companies with their strength in the cardio-diabeto segment. So if you see over here, cardiac is 40, cardiac is 60 and diabetes is 40%. So what we have tried to do is, these companies are not arranged in the descending order of their value, but the companies have been arranged in the descending order of their cardio-diabeto break. So here you will find companies which are majorly cardiac focused. Here the focus is in line with the IPM, which is 60-40, and here it is majorly the diabetes focus. So if you look in the first sector where the cardiac segment is stronger, you will see a mix of Indian as well as MNC companies. Good number of these companies have got legacy brands. They have a good KOL focus and they have taken support of their legacy brands to launch newer molecules in the market. Now, in all the 3 cases, we see good partnerships in a good number of companies as well. Then we have the next set of companies where the cardio-diabeto focus is more in line with the Indian pharma market cardio-diabeto focus. Mostly the companies are Indian. They have legacy brands and KOL focus, and they manage to be present in the most attractive segment. They don't go in each and every segment in the cardio-diabeto segment. And last section where the higher focus is on the diabetes section, you will see more number of MNCs operating in this segment, and they have made it big in the Indian market through their focus on the innovator launches. So they have come out with limited number of brands, limited number of subgroups, but they have managed to make it big in these limited number of subgroups. Now, I will not read all the brands, but then we have tried to capture the major brands in these companies. So I have not considered all brands, but I have considered the mother brands with turnover of greater than or equal to 70 crores, because there are some companies where the list of brands is very big. So we have given a capping of 70 crore and above, and we have seen there are significant number of good brands that are there in the segment today. So among the top companies, if you see Eliquis, which is an innovator which has been brought by Pfizer recently, then you will also see in case of Emcure, it has strengthened its position in the cardiac segment through Cardias and Lexin as well, because this acquisition has helped it really to make it big. In case of Zydus, they had Atorva and Amlodac, which was stronger brand. And this legacy of these brands has also helped them to some extent to develop their or establish their Lipaglyn and Bilapsia brand. Then coming to Glenmark, Ipca, the next set of companies, if you see everywhere, they have developed some strong brands, of which some are age-old brands like Telma, Telvas, Amloseph, whereas some are innovator brands like Brilinta, Xarelto, Kerendia, Mercure. So different companies have adopted different strategies to make their presence stronger. But yes, these brands that I'm talking or showing in this slide are the mother brands with a turnover of 70 crore and above. Coming to corporates like Mankind, where the ratio is in line with the market or the Cardio-Diabeto segment, you will also see good number of strong brands developed by these segments, by these corporates. And over here, the last segment where I said the diabetes focus is more and we see more number of MNCs. If you see all the molecules that they have brought, they are their original research molecule. They have been brought in the country in the last 2 decades or so, and they have made it strong. Of course, Lantus would be an older brand, but then all of them over here, whatever I'm seeing in the blue band are the original research molecule. And that's the reason why we call them as original research strong legacy brands which have made it big in the Indian market by the MNCs. Now when we are talking about, building this leadership, how the different companies have tried to build up this leadership. One is presence in the important molecules or molecular combinations. Then they have looked at leadership positions in the strong, either they have a leadership position or they have a strong market share in the relevant molecules or molecular combinations. The number of brands with significant turnover are also higher, and leadership position of brands in the respective markets is also seen. We also looked at the brand focus to ensure strong visibility, acceptance, and share of voice that these companies have employed. Now, what we have looked at, we have looked at how many subgroups are present in the cardio-diabetes segment. And out of these subgroups, are these companies present in all the subgroups or are they present in limited subgroups? And within these subgroups, in how many subgroups do they have a market share of greater than 25%? Why? Because if your market share is greater than or equal to 25%, it means you are at least 1/4 or more of this market. And that also talks about your leadership position in those subgroups. Now, if you look at almost all the companies like Sun, Abbott, USV, they are not present in all of these 171 subgroups of the cardio market. They are present in limited number of subgroups, but then these subgroups are almost 75% of the cardiac market. In fact, USV, the number of subgroups in which they are present is almost 1/6. So out of the 171 subgroups, USP is present only in 1/6 of the subgroups, but these 1/6 subgroups, they contribute to almost 50% of the cardio market. Similarly, out of these 71 subgroups, they are present in only 25% of the subgroups, but then they are present in the most important subgroups that matter today. Also, another example, if I talk about these 66 subgroups in which Sun Pharma is present, in how many of these subgroups do they have a market share of greater than 25%? Almost 17. And how much do these 17 contribute to IPM? Almost, not IPM, the cardio segment. These 17 contribute to almost 16% of the cardio segment. So what is the strategy that we are talking about? Need not be present in everything. Be present in the places where it matters and build brands and have a stronger market share. Now, this was in general at a subgroup level. Of course, I will not be discussing each and every company because this is IPM diary, which will be available to you later on. But then we try to look at the number of brands. Though the presence is only in 66 subgroups, brands greater than 10 crore is of almost 47. And the brands which have a market share of more than or equal to 25% in their respective subgroup. So here I have taken the direct market. So if you see market share greater than 25% in the direct subgroup, they have close to 12 brands which are absolute leaders in these subgroups. So if you look at these top companies, need not be present everywhere, be present in limited segments and build brands in those limited segments and strive to have a leadership opportunity in these segments. Of course, as the company becomes big, you need to optimize your resources. And if you have to optimize your resources, you need to have more number of divisions. So overall, if you see these companies, so we have given wherever the divisions are high, it's a dark color. And as the number of divisions decline, the color becomes lighter. So greater than 30 divisions would be in the darkest color. So for Sun Pharma, Abbott, Lupin, Intas and Cipla, number of divisions are higher. And however, we have also looked at out of these divisions, how many divisions have a cardio-diabeto segment of greater than 50%. So this is the lowest band, which is the lightest band. For Sun Pharma, cardio-diabeto segment contributes to 26%. So lesser number of divisions have focus on the cardio-diabeto segment. On the other hand, if you look at USV, 88% is through the cardio-diabeto segment for USV. The number of divisions are lesser, but then majority of them have a stronger focus in the cardio-diabeto segment. Now, when we talk about Abbott as a company, in Abbott, we have Novo Nordisk, which is a part of this Abbott company. And that's the reason why we see the higher contribution of Abbott or top position of Abbott in the cardio-diabeto segment. Then coming to the next set of companies, as the turnover of the company goes down, the number of divisions also go down. But then again, over here, we see a very good phenomena. I need not be present everywhere, but I will be present only in those markets which actually matter. So majority of them are present in the markets in the cardio as well as diabetes segment, which are very important. See Glenmark. They're present in 17 out of the 71 subgroups, but these 17, they contribute to almost 50% of this market, which is a good strategy. And out of these 17, I would say 5, that is almost 1/3, they are having market share of greater than 25%. So again, it's not being spread out everywhere, but be present in the limited category and have a leadership position over there. Look at the number of brands as well. If you look at Glenmark, it has close to 17 brands in both the categories together with a turnover of greater than 10. And out of these 17 brands, the 7 brands have a leadership position. MCure, if you see, they have 31 brands, out of which 21 brands have a market share of greater than or equal to 25% in their respective subgroups. As we go and look at the companies where the turnover goes down, you will see the number of divisions also gradually coming down. In the previous slide, there were many more companies with the dark color shade. Over here, the shade becomes little lighter. But then the number of divisions which are contributing to the cardio-diabetes segment also becomes relatively lesser. Coming to the next 30% companies, which is the second part of it, the next 7 companies, over here also, the presence is there in limited number of companies, but a limited number of subgroups, but which contribute substantially. Also, if I were to look at the number of brands developed over here, unlike the bigger companies where the number of brands were more and lesser number of brands were having leadership position, over here, the number of brands crossing a turnover of 10 crore plus has actually come down. But then relatively, they have a better proportion of brands with a leadership position in their respective subgroup. Then coming this interesting part, okay, now in case of all these companies, which falls in the last 10% slot, which I said, earlier that it's a very interesting analysis that we have. If you see everywhere, it is white color. White color means what? Less than 20% contributing molecules. But then what is important to see, they are present. Here it is only one subgroup. Here it is only 5 subgroups. But then through this presence in these 5 and 1 subgroups, Boehringer has got a turnover of close to 640 crores in the cardio-diabeto segment. It means what? They are present only in niche molecules and they have made these niche molecules or brands within these niche molecules very strong. So if you look at the brands in the Diabeto segment for Boehringer, they have got 5 brands. And these 5 brands, all of them have a leadership position in their respective segment. Similar analysis we can see for the rest of the MNCs as well. So MNC strategy is get your innovative molecule, make it big either solo or through partnerships, but be a leader in whatever category or be a strong player in whatever category you exist. Number of divisions are very less because it's like for limited brands, one division suffices. Then coming to the division strategy, as the corporates, they become big and they need to improve brand focus. They need to rationalize their resources. They need to increase their share of voice. And then we have looked at the different strategies which come out to be very common across the corporates operating in the cardio-diabeto segment. Now, these strategies are not the only strategies. These are the common strategies. So there will be many more strategies that exist in the market, which we have not managed to cover. Okay. It does not involve all divisions. It does not involve all brands. But here we are trying to give a directional view in terms of what are the different or most common and successful approaches that different companies have used. So these are the different strategies that we have found out very commonly across different companies. So the first one is more brands and more divisions, wherein we have better presence in many subgroups, stronger share of voice, especially for the old subgroups where competition is higher. One strong brand in one subgroup, wherein the focus is, focus on developing one brand in each potential subgroup. Third is more brands in limited divisions. This is possible when my brand legacy is stronger. I have got a very strong research background. So, competition through generics coming in, not very easy or not very easy to manufacture these products. And also doctors have more faith in my molecule or my brand, and shifting from my brand to a generic player would be difficult. And dedicated division for a brand, because the brand itself has become so big that you need to have one division and pour in resources of one full bigger division to make this brand or to manage this brand. So this is the first example wherein we look at the more brands and more divisions. Now what we have looked at Sun Pharma in cardiac division for rosuvastatin molecule. This molecule for Sun Pharma is has almost 41% of this molecule's market share. How they have managed it? They have two strong brands, Rosuvas and Rosuvel in this category. Similarly, if you look at many other molecules like atorvastatin, rosuvastatin plus fenofibrate, the market share in these categories is relatively stronger. And the number of brands, they have brought at least 2 brands to have that share of voice. 2 brands in 2 different divisions, 2 set of medical field forces, increasing the share of voice in this market. Also, if I were to look at some of the anti-diabetic category, Tribolib, Gemerby, Volix Trio, or Estavil D, Oxtra S, Depify S, the number of brands that they have are more. Through different divisions, they have managed to have a better share of voice. Another example we have is in the cardiac category, we have is for Emcure, wherein in the enoxaparin market, it has close to 32% market share. But if you look at the number of brands, they have 4 brands across 4 divisions being talked about in the market today. Also, when it comes to that S-enantiomer thing, it is Emcure specialty. This is the legacy of Emcure. So though it's their specialty, still in the S-amlodipine and the S-metoprolol market, they have 2 brands over here. They have 3 brands over here to ensure that there is a higher share of voice. Ramipril from Cardis, the Cardis from Sanofi that they have acquired have also enabled them to have 55% market share. The next strategy is one strong brand in one subgroup, wherein we focus on developing one brand in each potential subgroup. So if you look at Torrent, a classic example wherein if you see the market share in the respective subgroup is relatively stronger and with just one brand. So they have completely focused on that one brand to develop leadership in that particular molecule. Now Abbott, here we have taken example of the Novo Nordisk set of products. If you see, all the brands that they have or all the molecules that they are present in are their original research molecules. They haven't partnered with anybody. They have gone solo. But because the molecules are their original research, the name of the company is stronger. That's the reason why they have managed to make it a great success just by operating through one division. Another example is Boehringer. Unlike Abbott, they have partnered with Indian companies and tried to make it big. So by they themselves, empagliflozin, Jardiance itself has got a 68% market share, 52% market share. So if you see in their original research molecule in terms of value, they really have a very strong market share. Then comes to the last strategy that we discussed today is dedicated division for a brand. So if you look at USV as a company, their brands Glycomed GP, EcoSprin AV, EcoSprin Gold, all these brands have become so big that there is a division dedicated to these brands. Not that there is only one brand. Of course, there are some new launches or smaller brands which are also a part of this division. But then this one mega brand forms a major chunk of that division. Now, to summarize, the corporates at leadership position have efficiently managed their strategies well, gain market share in core areas by looking at options of partnerships and acquisitions, and resource optimization through divisions for better share of voice. Now, with this, I would like to summarize this episode of IPM Diaries. So if I were to summarize the first section, where we talked about the healthcare dynamics, the changing epidemiological patterns of lifestyle diseases and treatment options in the have brought this entire country into limelight. Exposure of younger population to the non-communicable diseases risk factors indicates a long-term trend of higher patient base in this area. Coming to the evolution of the cardio-diabeto segment, innovative therapies have opened a new chapter in terms of faster, better and a safer treatment option. Strategic partnerships have enabled better reach and branded generics have increased affordability for eligible patients. Coming to the strategies followed, top corporates operating in this segment have managed their legacy brands and KOL relations well to strengthen their position and expand further in this segment through brand building and strategic partnerships. This was all, and I would like to also talk to you about our company, PharmaRag, about the company. PharmaRag is first of its kind commerce to insights technology company. We build inclusive tech-led products catering to the needs of the pharma brands, chemists, distributors, and manufacturers, providing them a level playing field to scale, trade, and grow their business. We are anchored and powered by leading Indian pharma players, and these are three of our most important and strong products in the market. So Farm Analytics platform is the one wherein we have discussed about this data and analytics, which in fact IPM Diaries is an output of all this data that has been gathered, analyzed, and a research paper submitted to you. Farm Connect is a stockist platform which strengthens distributor operations, two-way visibility, returns management. And we have Farm Retail Chemist platform, which is best-in-class features for company to retailer engagement and loyalty building. To know more about it, please visit www.pharmarag.com. And this research paper has been brought to you by my team, Sheetal, Pari, and Shipra, and our entire PharmaRag data analytics and field team who have supported in data collection, projection, and delivery. Your feedback and suggestion on this topic of IPM Diaries as well as topics of interest for the upcoming episodes can be mailed to us on this email ID. And I would like to thank you for joining us today and staying with us for almost a longer period of time as compared to our monthly webinars. And this, in fact, is very encouraging for us. Thank you so much and have a lovely weekend ahead. Thank you so much.